Well, it's nearly the end of spring term. We're on episode 11. Heather, what we got?
Well, we're on the Teacher Squad podcast with Jane Considine and Heather Wright, and I am going to be talking about top fan emails, feeling like a celeb, but bringing us back down to earth, asking, who are they?
Yeah, who are they? And I'll tell you what, just in case you don't know, we drop on Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? That's hump day, just to get you over the hump. That's Heather and Jane, and well, we've got lots of things to keep you excited. We've got badges and all sorts.
All sorts, including some very exciting guests today from the Shropshire Bookfest, telling us all about the Readers to Writers project, and we discuss lots of real examples from the classroom, impact right there that we can take away and learn from.
Yeah, and you also know that, don't you, Heather, that some songs belong to certain people and remind you of those people, and I'm going to be talking about shooting stars.
Yeah, and no mascara warning this week. Should we get on with it?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Heather, your positivity has rubbed off on me because rather than thinking what the data says, I've spun it on its head, and 23% of teachers have considered staying in the profession.
Hey,
Not.
I like you switching it round. Is that a pass?
Yeah.
Is that a pass rate? 23%? No.
No, but you know, I'm glad there's 23% who are enjoying their jobs and loving it. And here, I tell you what, I was not enjoying my life this week. I mean, I'm not being, using any hyperbole here, but I had the most cataclysmic Friday. I was in Manchester doing a Right Stuff course, and I was getting the train back. Now that's 3 individual train jaunts back to Northampton and a taxi ride, and I stood on the pavement and saw the taxi drifting off into the horizon, and realised that I have left my bag somewhere on that trip. Now this bag, honestly, Heather, this bag, aka my life, had in my ID, my CRB check, my paper diary that's got all of my lists and nuances and things to remember that isn't even on an electronic diary. I've got my laptop that has all of my current CPD courses on, the Right Stuff, the spelling book training, early years training, hooked on books training. And all I can hear is Ian's words in my mind. Well, you have backed it up, haven't you? Yeah, I probably have 5 months and 16 days ago. I also had in that bag my iPad, which I work on when I teach, so that I work with an app called Notability. So I'm like a walking visualizer. And I've got, like interactive workings for all lessons when I'm doing demonstration teaching. And I just, oh my goodness, if I came with a warning that day, it was like, do not interact with me when I have just gone beyond the threshold of the expected response.
Is this story leading to a gratitude moment? Because it feels like it's going on a downward spiral. Although the bag sounds like it's giant, like a Mary Poppins bag. Or is it that big it's so easy to find? Please tell me you found it.
It got worse, Heather. Honestly, you talk about a spiral. There was like a spiral of a snot rocket coming out my nose. Tears, swollen eyes. I was wailing. I didn't know where menopause or what, I didn't know where I'd lost it on the journey. Because I was home, I was able to get into my car, went back to the taxi rank, was hounding all these taxi drivers. Didn't they have a group chat? Oh, it was a nightmare. Drove to rugby, was just like awful. Couldn't give up. Then was like posting things on websites, got police crime numbers. I just thought, I can't sleep. So just went to Northampton train station and just like wandered around. And then eventually met Colin. Oh my God, poor Colin. He just got my life story and then some, but that guy. So I am so grateful for Colin McLister, who works at Northampton train station, who told me straight, he's put me straight, he goes, this is slightly out of my brief, but
Okay.
he had a radio mic and he had a mate at Euston and we were sending emails. Anyway, I went home. He sent me away with like this kind of crime train hotline number.
Yeah.
And 2 hours later, he phoned me to say it was at Euston Station. It was locked away and safe. I could collect it. Thank
Phew.
Colin McLister, you are my mister. I'm so grateful
So is
for
it
you.
back in your possession?
Oh God, yes. And I was at Euston. I was still crying the next day at Euston. It was just almost like
So
until
you
I
got
had
the
it in my
train back
hands.
to go and get it? Yeah.
Yeah, but not where I was. I came from Manchester. Then I had to get a train to London on Saturday. And actually, it's quite hard. It's been a right old trauma, but I've never been more grateful to like hold electronic kit again. I was just like the technophobe I am. I was just like literally kissing it. But yeah, there's just some lovely people out there, and there's a few people
Definitely.
offering hugs along the way. Like, are you okay? You know, and I just was like, and they looked at me like, oh, there's too much snot to get too close to her. Rank.
So you'd left it on the train in Manchester, from
Yeah.
Manchester.
Well, I left it on the train going from Rugby to Northampton. It was on the
Okay.
last leg of the train. Yeah.
So have you learned some
Um,
lessons, Jane? Is it all backed up now? We got tracking on them all.
uh,
See, if
I've
you'd have
got
had
tracking.
tracking on the iPad, that would have helped you, wouldn't it? You'd have just
Yeah,
seen it.
but I have got tracking, but I was a bit off grid. So they had tracked me, but it was 3 days ago, so I wasn't because I hadn't linked in anywhere. I
Well,
was
I'm
off
glad you got
grid.
it back. I'm glad you got your Mary
Oh,
Poppins bag of goodies back.
thank God.
You're gonna be,
Thank
like, so
God.
super conscious on any future journeys, just constantly, like, touching it to make sure it's there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about creating an outfit where I can wear it, you know, like a big pocket on the front of me, so I can
Yeah.
just, like, wear it.
You
Never
could carry
lose it
that you
again.
could carry that off, Jane. I reckon you could carry that off.
Any other good news out there?
Well, Jane, the good news is the inbox has been pinging, and
Ooh.
it appears we now have a bit of a competition for the number one fan spot. Because
Oh
Karen's
my
been back on.
goodness.
Karen from last
What?
week, and bless her, she delayed. Let me tell you what she wrote. Hi again, Heather and Jane. I've delayed my response for a few days in case I was giving off stalker vibe, but here I am again with a big thank you. Don't worry about stalker vibe, Karen. We're happy to have your messages. And she said, I
Yeah.
was working my way through a pile of year 6 writing books quite late one evening and put on the latest podcast for company. That's what we're here for, isn't it? We are
Oh,
definitely here to
yeah.
keep you company through your ironing pile, through your marking pile. He said, I had the shock of my life when you mentioned me and read part of my email. Hopefully, you haven't spat out your coffee again, Karen. Wow, for just a few short moments, I felt like a celebrity. It made my day. However, don't get too excited, Jane, because this is going to bring us back down to earth. However, I was quickly brought down to earth by my dear husband when I played in the clip. His response was, who are they?
Yeah. Who
Luckily,
are you?
who are they? Yeah. Get back down again. Lose your ego. But luckily, my year 6 buddies did manage to sound impressed. Phew. Ah,
Oh,
thanks, Karen.
Karen. We've got
But
to
yeah,
frame that.
yeah, we should frame them. I'm getting mine printed on a
Yeah.
t-shirt. But Karen, email us back once you've heard this. Send me your address because one of the very exclusive I Love the Teacher Squad podcast badges is definitely heading to you. And as you've emailed a few times, maybe you can have one of each colour. Is that all right, Jane?
I think that's great. And actually, surely she's our first top spot, number one listener who's going to get a badge anyway. So we want photos and everything. So exciting.
Absolutely. And if
I've
you've
had
got
my
two,
badge yet.
if you've got two, you can wear them like Jane on your pips.
Yeah.
But not to be beaten, Amy, top fan, has been back in touch. I think she obviously felt Karen creeping in for her top spot. Dear Heather and Jane, it's me, Amy, your super fan. I wanted to drop you an email full of lots of love and admiration. Thanks and gratitude for your blooming lovely podcast. Oh, thanks, Amy.
Oh.
I wondered whether you chose Wednesdays as your release day each week on purpose. A flipping gorgeous TA at my school calls Wednesdays Hump Day and celebrates Wednesday afternoons for being over the hump. Something I suspect Jane may love. Your Laugh Out Loud podcast really does help me on Hump Day. On my drive in, it picks me up and helps me start the day with a smile on my face. And on my drive home, it keeps me laughing as I get closer to the weekend. Keeping this short and sweet so that Jane doesn't have to ask, "Are you okay, hon?" But hopefully enough to get me a couple of nipple barrier patches. Today's been funny, but it's nippy, and I could do with some attractive guards. With love and heartbursts from me. That Amy, can she have a pair of guards?
Yeah, hand them out. Hey, that's 3 listeners now. My mum, Amy, and Karen. We're doing dead well, aren't we? It's good. I love it. I love it.
Keep them coming, guys. We the Top Spot Superfan is always open. We love to hear about where you listen to the podcast, and we're going to be even more eagerly wanting to know where you're wearing your badges and who you're showing them off to and who's asking, who are they?
Yeah, love it. Oh, so we've got really some important people to interview next, and this is an issue that I'm particularly interested in. We know that the DFE are gathering all their thinking about writing. I also know that the Education Endowment Foundation are working with lots of people in the community about what's working with writing and are on a pathway to find evidence. And we know that there are projects out there working with writing for pleasure, because you've been talking about it before, haven't you, Heather?
Yeah, I gave this a little mention a few episodes ago. So this is we've got some guests from Bookfest Shropshire, and they recently shouted out about their research for the Readers to Writers project. And we were particularly interested in it. So we've got Suzanne Horton, who's from the University of Worcester, who was involved with the research, and Joanna Hughes, who is from Shropshire Bookfest. And they're going to come in and chat with us about the project, about its impact, and some things that educators can hopefully take and implement in their own classrooms. Shall we get them in, Jane?
Yeah, brilliant. Let's chat to them.
Well, Suzanne and Joanna, welcome to the Teacher Squad podcast. It's lovely to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It's wonderful. It's a great opportunity.
Well, we are intrigued and want to know more about your project, but we've got a bit of a challenge. First of all, can you just very briefly, in a couple of sentences, tell our listeners what the project is? Let's go to you, Joanna.
Okay, couple of sentences. So the project takes about 8 months to run. It involves 58 creative writing workshops in schools with 9 leading children's authors. It involved nearly 1,500 children. It involved 29 primary schools across Shropshire, and it also involved 1,500 books going into classrooms, into the hands of children. And basically the children were mentored by children's authors to write and produce their own book. So that is what it was.
Oh, you passed the challenge. Well done. Past level 1. Fantastic. There's a lot of numbers and a lot within that project, which is really exciting. But Suzanne, can you just briefly explain, and the bar's been set now, she did it in a few sentences. Can you just briefly explain how you work with that exciting project as a research partner?
Well, we were approached by Bookfest. It's myself and my co-researcher, Louise Beattie, who both work at the University of Worcester, to look at really Shropshire Bookfest wanted some kind of way of measuring that impact. So in terms of the research that we conducted, we engaged with 10 schools, 12 teachers, and we looked at 301 children's sort of storyboards around their journey from starting writing to becoming an author as well. So we looked at what impact the various parts of the project were having on the children's engagement, enjoyment, and motivation with reading, with writing.
Fantastic. I love that it was 301. That one extra one's all important. Tips the research right into the right little zone.
Yeah, definitely.
I was this is a bit of a side question really, but I was just thinking there about that the kind of the ultimate aim of it was they were producing their own books and their book titles. Were there any standout interesting book titles that you can remember that caught your eye during the project?
There were so many. As I say, we had nearly 1,500 children write their own books, and every single book was read by the Bookfest team. And this project took place last year. I can honestly say that every book that I read was just so original and different and fresh and innovative that I couldn't really pick one out, to be honest. They were just
No,
all
that's
brilliant.
fine.
It was so lovely.
Isn't that amazing that giving the pupils the space, they stepped into it and they were innovative and creative and rose to the challenge.
That's right.
Yeah, I bet there was one called Fortnite. I bet it was that one kid who said,
That was Joanna's.
get rid of that one.
That's Joanna's. She looks like a gamer.
But to be fair, some of the children did cite, when we talked about what helped them become a writer, some of them were citing things like games that they played as well. And it all adds to that creativity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love that, because if they're inspired and they're excited, then and that's what occupies their imagination, then yeah, absolutely. I'm so interested in this project, and I've really got my eyes on it. Can you tell us, Joanna, particularly about some specific anecdotes around kind of the impacts of the project, some of the things that happened on the journey, as it were?
So we did ask the teachers just to keep an eye on special little stories that were coming through about their pupils. And we had loads of little anecdotes, which was fantastic. There was one that one of the many that stood out was from a teacher who said, "We have two boys who are very low in writing abilities and motivation. They were year one boys, so they're quite young. And the biggest impact of the project was felt with these two boys, according to the teacher. She said that they produced more writing than ever before, and they spoke about Bookfest at home and at school, and they were just so proud to have written and to be writing their own stories and books. And the teacher went on to say that the feeling has continued, and they're continuing to write more and of a higher standard than ever before. So that was one. Another one was a teacher that said that we found even children who find writing difficult wanted to persevere with the story and complete it independently, because they knew that there was someone, at least one person was going to be reading their story, which obviously the Bookfest judges. So it just sort of created a real drive and excitement around writing their own stories. And there's another one that I was just having a quick look just before we came on. Another teacher said that she had one 6-year-old boy, again a boy, who said that they would treasure their book forever and ever and ever, and they were going to read it to their children when they were grown up. I know.
Oh,
I
it was
love that.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So we've got so many little stories like that, which are just it's just fantastic. It was really joyful to read, but also what the research study did was just like formalise everything that we could see coming through in a properly endorsed independent piece of research. So no, it was really exciting. So yeah, lots of stories.
And in relation to this book that they're producing at the end for like a real reason to write, with an audience and kind of a judging panel, how much of it became like a DT project? Did they have to have like front covers and chapter titles, or was it just the writing itself, or was there like the production of a book component?
Yeah, so we gave them, every child, a blank book. Basically, it has a black cover, quite a sort of hard cover, and inside it just has blank pages. And we just said to them, just write your story in the book, and then decorate the book and make it look like a book that you find on a bookshelf. So we gave them lots of tips and ideas, like printing out barcodes and on the fly leaf on the inside page, sort of saying who the publisher might be. Perhaps write a dedication, write some reviews from other pretend children's authors. So they all decorated their books with that sort of thing, and they all look, it was just great to see. So they go, oh, well, mine's going to cost £6.99. It's like, oh, well, mine's much more expensive than that. So they were putting like price tags on them. It was brilliant. Yeah, so they really went to town, and it's great because they're sort of going into bookshops and libraries and things, and actually looking to see how a book cover looks and what the information is on the front and the back, on the inside cover, etc. So yeah, it was a learning journey, and sort of finding out about publishers and the names of publishers and all that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it was more than writing a story.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning around the process of a book and who interacts with it and designs it as well in that, which can fire off their imaginations as well, can't it?
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great. God,
no, it's good.
Bring back sticky back plastic. I love that. It sort of reminds me of my own childhood.
Believe me, there's loads of it around, and it's very useful in this sort of project. So yeah, no, it's great.
Oh, interesting when you're saying about those stories of significant pupils and hearing about the characteristics of a writer, that the journey is bringing out that kind of resilience and kind of focus. Suzanne, can you tell us the most significant, or some of the most significant findings of the research?
Yeah, when we conducted the research, after we'd analysed all of these storyboards, the 301 storyboards that we analysed, then we sort of themed it, and three main themes came across really. One was around that transformation of how pupils transformed as writers, and how they felt at the beginning, how they felt at the end. So in terms of doing that, the children, from their children's and the teacher's perspective, they could see the journey that the children had been on, and the improvement, not only in the sort of the creative process, the compositional skills, but also, as almost an aside, the transcriptional skills had improved as well, almost sort of tangentially, I suppose. The second theme really was what helped children to become a writer. We looked at it in terms of context. And again, a significant finding was the engagement of other people. And the other people, I mean, obviously huge impact was the author visit, absolutely huge. But the project itself, in terms of the Readers into Writers project, had a wider reach as well, with parents and carers becoming involved, grandparents. Children were talking or writing on their storyboards how they'd had an idea from their grandmother, or they talked about it with their siblings. And also their peers as well, having the opportunity to be able to reflect on what they'd written or share what they'd written with their peers as well. And as Joanna's already said, having that finished product at the end. And then the third real theme was the process, and how children talked about the process of writing and the empowerment and the autonomy, and how that really was significant in terms of the impact that the project had on them. So, and I think what we did say at the end of the research, that golden thread all the way through, was the voice of the children coming through to say how much they enjoyed the writing, were motivated to write, I suppose one of the significant findings is how children responded in terms of wanting to continue that. So again, we talked about the momentum, the impetus of the project. It doesn't just finish when the project finishes. It continues throughout, which is great for children and for the teachers as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Heather does as well. That's why we say words at the same time. But just reflecting on what you're saying there, I mean, we know writing is so tangled up with self-esteem. And I think, what you're talking about there, about that kind of golden thread, how do we help build children's kind of capabilities up, that they can see that they can be a writer and see themselves as a writer. I just wanted to rewind back to, and I think this is a question for both of you really, like Heather and I know, but we know as teachers as well, but what is it that an author visit does that creates meaning for children? Why do you think that becomes such a crucial part of unlocking how they see themselves as a writer?
I mean, one of the storyboards that we analysed had sort of pictures and text with it, and it talked very much about how they'd found out that one of the authors that came in had written 10 drafts of a particular story, and it wasn't right with the first draft. And I think sometimes as teachers, we forget that with children, that actually we expect a finished product straight away, and they were really keen that actually we can make mistakes. There was that risk-taking element to it because they knew it was an iterative process. I'm just looking, I got one of the children said, it made me feel better knowing that it took the author 14 drafts before he was able to submit it. There was another one where they said the author bought in a book that the author had written when they were 10 years old, so they were able to relate to that, this little sort of paper book with illustrations and the writing, and they saw it as it's a real person, and it's not too far removed from what we do. And that author visit, I think, was pivotal really in engaging a lot of the children.
Absolutely. I think the author is important because as teachers we can say those things all of the time, but when it's a published real author and they explain their own story, it's really powerful, isn't it? And I think in the age of social media, when what all of us see is that Instagram perfect moment and not all the iterations before, I think children find it difficult to be the beginner. They want to be the master straight away. And authors going in and illustrators, it's a really powerful moment, isn't it, to show to the children.
Yeah.
This is a process I constantly go through. I'm going through it for each book, each time I write, each time I create. We all have to go back to that start point. Sorry, I could wax lyrical about author visits all of the time.
Yeah,
I am sold.
You're right, Heather, because one of the teachers in the interviews that we conducted as well, not one of the teachers, a number of the teachers were saying, we can tell them till we're blue in the face about doing this and doing this. And it was just that one visit that almost validated what we were saying. So I think it has that, as you say, it's a really powerful way of introducing children to becoming authors.
Yeah, it sounds like the teachers within the project, though, you might add to this, Joanna, they've not seen it as this one-off moment of an author visit. They've actually taken it and they've ridden that wave and that momentum of it.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think I'd add to it by also saying that the way that the authors engaged with Bookfest before they went into the schools was critical in the power of their delivery of the workshop as well. So we spend a lot of time talking to authors and talking them through the project and explaining exactly what the outcomes are going to be, what the process is and all that sort of thing. And also we give the same sort of information to the teachers and the pupils about their workshop author who's going in. So both are doing an awful lot of research on the other, so that by the time they come together, the author doesn't have to spend 20 minutes saying, my name is so-and-so, these are the books I've written, this is my style. That's all being done by the children and the teachers. So when they get together, they can just hit the ground running and start talking about the writing process. So I think, that sort of investment in time before an author workshop absolutely pays off on the day. And it's proved to be really powerful.
Do a bit of name dropping. Sorry, I was just going to ask, do a bit of name dropping and tell us some of the authors that you had involved in the project. So if teachers are listening and they're thinking about booking some authors for their school, they go, oh, they're a great one.
Oh, no pressure. Yeah, no. So we had Peter Bentley, who's a picture book writer, author, Tracy Corduroy, Gareth P. Jones. We had Josh Lacey, Jenny McLaughlin, Jack Meggitt Phillips, Ross Montgomery, Sam Sedgman, and Eloise Williams. So there were 9 authors that were really carefully sort of picked in a way. So what we do is we go out to publishers and authors in the summer way before the project starts, and we put out on social media and press releases, this is the project we're running and these are the people we're looking for. So in a way, authors and illustrators were applying to us for the position on the panel, and then we'd go through their workshop content and their ideas, and would shape the sort of workshops according to the needs of the schools. So we have, really good understanding of our schools and our teachers and their environments. So it's a case of sort of matching exactly the right author for the right school, so that both of them get the best out of everything. So it's not necessarily always the biggest named authors or the ones with number 1, number 2 at Waterstones. It's authors who can deliver a creative writing workshop for children. That's the important bit.
And I think within that importance, it's putting at the heart of it the messy process and that layered process, kind of as you're working through it. I always think it's such a shame that we can't share this book with children, because it's, in my opinion, one of the best books that reveals this, and it's by Stephen King, and it's such a shame we can't read Stephen King to primary school children, because he's written a book called On Writing, which is basically a book where he analyzes every draft process and how he kind of sharpens it up at every editing stage until it's ready to be published. And it's just so fascinating, that book.
We need a children's author to do a version, don't we, Jane?
Yeah, absolutely. Which I think was probably part of this project work, actually. Just bringing it back to the kids, from the kids' perspective, what sort of things do they need to meet more of so that we can turn up the pleasure for them, the pleasure of writing? Because we all know the data from the National Literacy Trust, where that was their long, large-scale study with 42,000 children, and that we know that 38% of children say that writing improves their mental well-being. So we know it's a strategy that can really support children. And how can we unlock that pleasure for them? What are some things that we need to do for children so they enjoy it more?
Well,
Big
I would
question.
say, yeah, it is. Well, yeah, where do you start? It's giving the children voice and freedom to write what they want to write, with a certain amount of support, but not judging them at the same time, and not putting the pressure on them to have to sort of meet all the targets, which they obviously have to meet through their day-to-day school lives. So I think the reason why this project works so well is because there is freedom for the children simply to write what they want and just to go for it. So I don't know, over to you, Suzanne. That's what Bookfest's biggest thing is, just the pupil voice is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we'll provide the structure and the framework, and we'll provide the support to teachers as much as they need or as little as they need or whatever they want to do. And we'll put all the things in place to make it happen. Then it's over to the kids just to go for it. It's free of all the frontal adverbials. It's free of judging. It's free of, it's not going to be marked with a pen. It's going to be read and enjoyed. So their work matters. Their voice is important.
I love that. Their work matters. It's the space and time, isn't it, for that? Let's provide proper space and time for that. Yeah.
I think as well, I agree totally with what Joanna said. It is that freedom, and that's probably one of the key words that came out of our research when we started to analyse the data that we'd got. Freedom and sort of choice, authorial choice, having the opportunity to choose any subject that they wanted based on their interests and things, not having that formulaic sort of structure that they had to adhere to. But I think in terms of autonomy, it was not just autonomy around what they produced in terms of content, but also the way in which they did it, the process. Some of the children were commenting on their storyboards. What they enjoyed was being able to do the illustrations first. And that's how they started. It wasn't, well, we've all got to do the writing and then we can add this bit if we want to afterwards. They were allowed to choose that starting point as well. And again, the autonomy around the product, what it looks like, what they included, how they wrote the blurb on the back. But another key finding that came through was the environment and how the environment makes a difference. And children were talking or writing about how they enjoyed being outside and writing. One talked about listening to the birds and enjoying that. It made them feel calm. And so there was a lot around a calm environment, peaceful. Again, one child had drawn themselves under the bed writing because that was a quiet place for them. So the themes were coming through there as well. Hugely was around having permission to make mistakes and not have to produce that completely finished product. But it's funny because teachers actually found that a little bit challenging. One of the teachers had said, it's really challenging as a teacher. You've got to take a step back because it's their story and it's hard for us to manage it as you get 30 completely individual stories. And they said some remember what they've learned in previous lessons, but it's not for us to sort of interfere. It's for them to show their creativity. And I think it's got to have that buy-in from the teachers in that way as well, because all of the teachers were overwhelmingly positive about the impact that it was having, not only emotionally, but also academically as well. So, it's a win-win really. And the other to make it more pleasurable, I think, is around that editing process, because I know when I was in the classroom and I taught a number of year groups, editing and redrafting and all of that is not the most exciting part of writing. And having the authors come in and be able to say, this is a real process. Yeah. Again, that's brilliant for children to see that.
I think in there as well, Suzanne, you said that teachers are control freaks. I think I heard that a bit.
You definitely did. Definitely did. And you're right.
I could say that from my point of view as well. So
it's very true. It's very true. Yeah. It's been great talking about the project. If our listeners want to investigate a little bit more and read about that, where should they head to?
Just simply go to the Shropshire Bookfest website, and it'll be on the homepage. The project is called Readers to Writers. Just go straight in there, and all the information about the project is there. And the University of Worcester's amazing research study, which has just been such a powerful piece of work that we can just hold up to and just show to the world, really. And also, just say thank you to the amazing kids and teachers out there in Shropshire who've done this. It's just been fantastic. So, go to the website, shropshirebookfest.co.uk, and have a wander around, and you'll find everything there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been brilliant. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you. So I've chosen my wonder of words after snuggling up to my dad last week. And my dad's called Fred, and he's such a good listener. I mean, he's a doctor of psychology. I think that comes with the territory. But you know, when you snuggle up to your dad and he's got like familiar dad smell, and there are just some songs that are owned by certain people in your life, and this is definitely this song is my dad's. Obviously I can't sing, so I'm going to read it like a poem, and it's called Shooting Star by Bob Dylan. Seeing a shooting star tonight, and I thought of you. You were trying to break into another world, a world I never knew. I always kind of wondered if you ever made it through. Seeing a shooting star tonight, and I thought of you. Seen a shooting star tonight, and I thought of me. If I was still the same, if I ever became what you wanted me to be. Did I miss the mark or overstep the line that only you could see? Seen a shooting star tonight, and I thought of me. Listen to the engine, listen to the bell, as the last fire truck from hell goes rolling by. All good people are praying. It's the last temptation, the last account, the last time you might hear the Sermon on the Mount. The last radio is playing. Seen a shooting star tonight, slip away. Tomorrow will be another day. Guess it's too late to say the things to you that you needed to hear me say. Seen a shooting star tonight, slip away. Love that song so much. Go and have a listen. Bob Dylan, there's 1,000, of course, he's so prolific, but Shooting Star is definitely worth a listen.
I'm glad
Heather.
you balanced it out. We had a bit of mums last week and a bit of dads this week. That's lovely. I'm sorry for making you cry last week, and I was thinking, don't choose anything that'll make Jane cry.
After too much crying already. God. Cataclysmic Friday.
After chatting with our guests, I'm feeling a bit smug about my choice. I chose it because it is Tom Percival's new picture book, illustrated by Richard Jones, and it's called Quiet. But it's got a little tagline at the top that says every voice should be heard, and hearing from them about making sure that every pupil feels like their voice is heard, I feel a bit smug. I'm going to read. I'm going to read, not from the beginning. There's a little bird, a little quiet bird that nobody's listening to, but then a big mechanical beast comes to the forest, and the little bird says, "Just imagine if we all gathered here together." "And then we fight?" asked one of the magpies. "No," said the young bird. "This is my plan, if you're willing to try it. We fill up the clearing, sit still, and stay quiet." So that's exactly what they did. The little bird held her breath. The machine roared closer. She closed her eyes, her heart pounding, and still the machine came. It rumbled closer and closer until the engines fell silent. The saw blades stopped spinning. A quiet song rose up, drifting high into the air, a delicate song of pure beauty and wonder. As the little bird sang, the sound echoed through the woods. It was a song of hope, of family, of love, and of home. It was a song of belonging. At first she sang alone, but soon all the other creatures of the woods joined in. And there, in that moment, they all understood, even the workers who climbed back into the machines. The engines rumbled back into life, but the saws remained silent. The machines turned slowly around, and then they were gone. And that was how the forest learnt the song of the small, quiet bird with the turquoise flash on one wing, a song that still rings out clear and true. because everyone has something to offer, whether big or small, timid or bold, quiet or loud. There is a time and a place for everyone's voice to be heard.
Oh, you smug git. Yeah, that's really good.
It's lovely, isn't it? Did you see the Open University Reading for Pleasure conference was on last weekend, and Tom Percival was there, and he's amazing. He's a great speaker as well. And there were lots of people who grabbed early copies of this book, and I thought, I too have an early copy. I shall share. I didn't realise it was going to so nicely fit with our guests.
And his other book, Invisible's amazing as well, isn't it? Just such a great read.
He's a
love that book.
brilliant writer, and he's got a new novel coming out in May. Look out for that one. I think everybody's going to remember that one as well. Just one thing, though, our visitors said, sorry, Jane, I caught you mid mouth open there. And when they said about some of the authors that were great on their project, one name I noticed, Ross Montgomery, because he is doing a Reading Rocks virtual event. I think it's on the 28th of March, and there are still places left. So if people visit our website, they can check that out. I shall put the link in the show notes. Maybe people would like to come and have an author visit and ride some of that momentum with their pupils themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also a bit of a rewind to the Tom Percival title, Quiet, and a bit of intertextuality, as we've got a few songs on the go, this podcast. One of my favourite hits from a musical is Quiet in Matilda, which is always a good car one in it to sing along to. Love that.
Yeah, it's a really good song. And I've said before, studying musical songs, brilliant. Absolutely. Now, Jane, have you got any travels coming up? Do we need to worry about the bag?
Yeah, always worry about the bag. I'm actually sort of bedding down a bit. I'm just doing I'm still on like a bit of a Hanoi project, doing lots of zooming. Who's zooming who? Yeah, doing some Hanoi zooms and things. Got a bit of downtime coming up for Easter as well. But I know we've got Easter homework, haven't we, Heather? So there's definitely stuff people have to do, because we're not going to be around over Easter. But you've got TV programs to watch and a bit of reading. Heather, can you remind me? Please rescue me.
Don't put me under pressure like that. You're going to have to sing for a minute while I find, because I don't want to get the name wrong. People need to head to, I'm there, I'm okay. People need to head to BBC iPlayer and look up Darren McGarvey, The State We're In. And it's episode 2, which is all about education. And he goes to various schools, one in Finland, private schools in this country, one school called the Punk School, which just sounds brilliant. But we'd love to know your thoughts on that. And how can people tell us their thoughts, Jane, in case they've forgotten?
Well, we might get email number 5, because actually we've got 2 people sending a couple of emails. But let us know what you think of that TV program. And the other thing I want you to have a little read around is the Ofsted subject update around English. It's an absolute enormous document, and I know we're all cross with Ofsted, but I do think there are things we can reflect on and learn from that document about English. There's some really big messages about reading and writing tangled up in that. Don't print it off. That'll really use up all your printer ink. But having a damn good read of that is going to be really useful for after Easter, because there's going to be lots of reflections about sort of curriculum direction moving forward.
Comments and questions. We're not promising we can answer them, but we're open to people firing questions our way. And don't forget, if you do send us an email, Heather at theteachersquadpodcast.com, Jane at theteachersquadpodcast.com, you too can be the proud owner of an I Love the Teacher Squad podcast badge. There are 2 variations, one with a purple heart And one with a
Yes.
green heart. You can be as specific as you like in your email and tell us which
Yes.
one you want, or convince us that you need both. And
And then
we'll
you're going to
happily
look
send them.
so amazing on Playground Duty. I mean, you're going to look like top drawer with one of
They're
them
limited
badges.
edition, so get your email in and top anecdotes,
Yeah.
and we may well share those. But I think we probably should say goodbye for now, Jane.
Yeah, definitely. Is it the Easter holidays yet? Surely soon.
We're nearly
Crawling
there.
to the
Nearly
nearly
there. Just a few more bags of mini eggs to get us there. I think we'll be all right. Well, it's big love from Heather.
Yeah, and it's Heartbursts from Jane. See you on the other side, darlings.